Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. The Curse of Oak Island preview. The guys have to hunker down as a hurricane threatens to destroy all their work. The Curse of Oak Island team must brace themselves as they find themselves in the path of a destructive hurricane, and there's more digging in the swamp and an analysis of samples from the Money Pit area. Tonight we'll see the History Channel's Season 11, Episode 16 of The Curse of Oak Island. This episode is called Dark and Stormy, clearly a reference to the hurricane bearing down on the island. Unfortunately, the Oak Island guys are subject to the whims of Mother Nature, and the often harsh climate regularly stops them in their tracks. The team ceases operations every winter as the cold weather descends. The guys already endured flood damage at the garden shaft earlier in the season, and now it seems as though they've got a hurricane to deal with. This is likely Hurricane Idalia, which struck Nova Scotia last August, or perhaps Hurricane Lee, which hit in September. In the preview, Rick stated with plenty of dramatic emphasis, "There's no denying it. This could be the most dangerous day on the island." However, the hard work continues beforehand, and viewers can expect to see a lot of digging in the swamp tonight. Last week, Billy Gerhardt's digger started pulling up a lot of old tree stumps, which could add more fuel to the theory that the marshy area was artificially created. Oak Island team hopes to learn the swamp was created in 1200 AD. The preview showed geoscientist Davrian Spooner speculating that the wood could date back to 1200 AD, putting it at the same age as the paved area. One theory also puts Nolan's Cross in the same era. That would put the stumps in the same time period as the Templar Knights. Also tonight, the team has another expert in the war room who's been testing samples from the Money Pit area. It's unknown exactly which samples he'll be referring to, but it could relate to the proto-mortar soil samples recently recovered at Lot 5 and previously from the Money Pit. The Oak Island guys are always looking for links to the Templar Knights. Whatever the samples might be, the expert suggests they originate from the southeast of France. This could also be construed as a link to the homeland of the medieval order of Templar Knights. The History Channel episode synopsis alludes to all of the above, reading, "While new discoveries across the island continue to invigorate the team, a dangerous storm threatens to shut down the entire operation." Finally, on tonight's show, Jack Begley and metal detectorist Gary Drayton find something very exciting. Viewers be warned, Gary will be doing a dance. As the sun dipped low over the horizon, casting a golden glow over the choppy waters surrounding Oak Island, a sense of unease settled over the crew. The air crackled with anticipation, not just of the impending storm, but of something more ominous, something lurking just beyond the reach of their understanding. Marty Lagina stood on the deck of the Oak Island treasure-hunting ship, his brow furrowed with concern as he watched the dark clouds gathering on the horizon. He could feel it in his bones. This storm was going to be a big one, perhaps the biggest they had faced yet. And with it came the very real threat of destruction, not just to their equipment and their progress, but to the island itself. Beside him, his brother Rick scanned the horizon with a similar sense of apprehension. For years they had poured their blood, sweat, and tears into uncovering the secrets of Oak Island, and now it seemed as though their efforts were about to be washed away in an instant. "We need to batten down the hatches," Marty said, his voice tense with urgency. "This storm is going to be a monster." Rick nodded grimly, his jaw set in determination. "We can't afford to lose any ground now, not when we're so close to finding the answers we've been searching for." With a sense of purpose, the crew sprang into action, securing loose equipment, tying down tarps, and reinforcing the structures they had painstakingly erected over months of hard work. But even as they worked, the wind began to pick up, whipping through the trees and sending waves crashing against the rocky shoreline with ever-increasing force. As night fell, the storm descended upon Oak Island with a fury unlike anything they had ever witnessed. Rain lashed against the windows of the makeshift headquarters, while thunder rumbled ominously in the distance. The wind howled like a banshee, rattling the doors and windows as though seeking entrance to the sanctuary the crew had built for themselves. Inside, the atmosphere was tense as the crew gathered around a map of the island. Illuminated by the flickering light of a lantern, Marty and Rick stood at the head of the table, their faces grim as they discussed their options. "We can't risk going out in this weather," Marty said, his voice barely audible over the roar of the storm outside. "It's too dangerous." "But we can't just sit here and do nothing," Rick countered, his voice tinged with frustration. "We've come too far to let a little bad weather stop us now." The crew exchanged worried glances, torn between their desire to press on with the search and the very real danger that lay outside. But before they could come to a decision, a loud crash echoed through the building, followed by the sound of splintering wood. With a sinking feeling in their stomachs, the crew rushed to investigate, only to find that a section of the roof had been torn away by the force of the wind. Rain poured in through the opening, soaking everything in its path. "We need to evacuate," Marty said, his voice urgent. "It's not safe here anymore." Reluctantly, the crew gathered their belongings and made their way outside, braving the full force of the storm as they scrambled for higher ground. But as they looked out over the island, they were met with a sight that filled them with dread. The once tranquil landscape had been transformed into a raging tempest of wind and water, with waves crashing against the shore with enough force to tear through solid rock. Trees bent and snapped like twigs in the gale, while debris flew through the air like missiles. For hours the crew huddled together, clinging to each other for support as they rode out the storm. And when at last the winds began to die down and the rain eased to a gentle drizzle, they emerged from their shelter to survey the damage. It was worse than they had feared. Buildings lay in ruins, equipment lay scattered across the island, and the carefully excavated sites they had worked so hard to uncover were now buried beneath layers of mud and debris. But even as they gazed upon the destruction wrought by the storm, Marty and Rick knew that they could not give up hope. For buried somewhere beneath the surface of Oak Island lay the answers they sought, and no amount of wind or rain could extinguish the fire of their determination. "We'll rebuild," Marty said, his voice filled with conviction. "We'll pick up the pieces and we'll keep searching, because that's what we do. We're treasure hunters, and nothing, not even a hurricane, will stand in our way." And with that, the crew set to work, their spirits undaunted by the challenges that lay ahead. For though the curse of Oak Island may have thrown them another curveball, they knew that with perseverance and a little luck, they would eventually uncover the secrets hidden beneath the surface, and finally lay to rest the mysteries that had plagued the island for centuries.